it's time to sit back and relax with your favorite drink. And listen. It is worth noting that the belief in demonic possession and the signs of it vary widely depending on cultural, religious, and personal beliefs. However, some common signs that are often associated with demonic possession, according to some beliefs, include the following: speaking in languages the person does not know, exhibiting superhuman strength, showing a sudden aversion to religious objects or places, displaying an intense fear or hatred towards religious figures or symbols, having unexplained marks or bruises on the body, experiencing convulsions and seizures, exhibiting personality changes such as suddenly becoming violent or aggressive, and claiming to have supernatural abilities such as levitation or telekinesis. It is of course highly possible that these signs of demonic possession are also symptoms of other medical or mental health conditions. But sometimes, just maybe, they're signs of something worse. I was possessed by something from beyond this universe. Last night I received a package outside the front door of my apartment room. The sender's name was a Dr. Ramirez with no return address. Curious, I took it inside and sat on my chair in the living room. After tearing the package open, I noticed multiple CDs and a letter. This is what the letter said. Dear Jacob, I've waited many years to deliver this evidence to you of your strange and unsettling possession back in early November to New Year's Eve of 1999. Why I've waited so long to do so will be explained to you on the last disc labeled number 5, Reverend Matthew's remarks. I recommend you listen to each disc in numerical order. That way you understand things more clearly. After listening to all of the discs, you may have an urge to contact your parents, but I advise you against that greatly, for their own mental health's sake. They need to continue to recover from what happened. I'm afraid that it will bring back terrible memories of what transpired and will open doors to some things that should never be seen again. As for Reverend Matthew, the same thing will happen. Take care, and for what has happened and might yet happen, I'm so sorry. Dr. Ramirez. Oh, clearly I became confused, yet a bit unsettled as well. I can barely remember what happened in the winter of 1999. No matter how hard I tried, it seemed like I kept hitting a wall. I don't even remember my family or even Dr. Ramirez mentioning anything of what happened that winter. Well, now I wanted to know what happened. Curious to see if the CDs sitting on the coffee table could help me remember. So I got up, got my old as hell Walkman with some new earbuds, sat back down on the couch, and put in the first CD labeled number 1, First Interview with the Possessing Spirit. These are the transcriptions of the CDs. Here is CD number 1. This is the first interview with the entity possessing Jacob Malcolm. He's a 14-year-old boy, Caucasian, lives with his mother, Marissa Malcolm, his father, Henry Malcolm, and Jacob's sister, Cassie Malcolm, in the city of in Washington State. Now, we can begin. Jacob, I'm Dr. Ramirez. I'm here because your parents weren't sure what to do after they noticed you were acting strange over the past 3 weeks. They told me you seemed possessed, and I believe that to be true. I want to talk to whatever is possessing you, if that's all right with you. Yeah, it's all right. My voice sounds calm, but I can sense some fear in it. Can you bring that entity out for me? Yes. Well, I'm ready when you are. And sounds of me breathing deeply for 4 minutes or so. After 4 minutes pass, there's a minute of silence followed by the quiet droning of a low-pitched and distorted ringing. Jacob. I, or it, speaks with my voice, but it's echoed, monotone. It sounds like it's underwater. And it sounds wrong. He is not here now. Am I speaking to the entity possessing Jacob's body? Yes. You said he's not here. Where is Jacob then? His spirit is where I am from. While I take control of his body, his soul is sent to my dimension. Your dimension? Where is that? There are infinite dimensions. Yours is the third. Mine is the 8th. Jacob's parents believe that you are demonic. Are you a demon? What I am is not a demon. Not in your species' religions or spiritual perceptions, anyway. If you're not a demon, then what are you? An explorer. Well, please be more specific. Then there's silence for a minute, and then the entity responds. There is no need to specify to you for now. My time speaking with you is done for now. Why? Why must you finish talking to us? The droning ringing sound suddenly ceases, and then I'm heard breathing deeply and heavily. Hello? Am I back? Is it done? Here I sound like I just woke up from a nightmare. Jacob? Dr. Ramirez, what did it say? Well, it didn't tell us much except for it being an explorer from another dimension. According to what it told us, it's not demonic. Oh, I don't believe that for a second. The things it's made him do are just... they're not good. They gave me the chills. Whatever it is, it's evil. It needs to leave him now. Oh, Mrs. Malcon, I need to conduct more interviews with it. Besides, Reverend Matthew said it doesn't match with any demonic behavior he's ever recorded. It doesn't eliminate the possibility, though. Mr. Malcolm, we'll have to talk on this later. For now, you all need some rest. The recording ends there. I was confused and a bit unsettled. My voice in that interview, when whatever spoke through me, just sounded wrong, and not in an evil way. I'm saying that it was wrong in a weird way, just so fucking weird that it felt wrong. Like nothing human should be able to make that voice. I took out the CD and put in the next one labeled number 2, Interview with Jacob's Parents. The recording begins immediately with Dr. Ramirez talking to my parents. That's physically impossible. Well, it happened. We both saw. Here, see for yourself. Well, there's a single click of a button on what I assume is a TV remote. About 30 seconds of silence pass. What in the hell? You see? His eyes. I've never seen eyes do that before. They do that every night ever since the last night of November, at the same exact time, 11 p.m. I always go into his bedroom to make sure he's asleep. Well, he's always sitting up facing the door, with those eyes glowing like that sickly purple color. I jump, of course, but I don't feel like they're looking at me. What do you mean? Like he's looking beyond you? Well, yes, but not behind me. In the other room, or even at the house next to our house. It's like he's looking somewhere far away. Oh, I can't describe it. His pupils seem to be in an odd shape. I've never seen anything like that. It looks like an octagon. His irises are purple with that strange glow. Different from his sea green eyes, of course. but the white of his eyes are gone. It's just black. A terrible black, like those pupils.
Is this the first recording of this type of phenomenon?
Yes. At first I just thought it was my mind playing tricks on me due to the stress of other things he's done before, and the awful nightmares I've been having.
Nightmares?
I've been getting them ever since that thing started controlling him. I like your usual odd dream, but there's this constant feeling of being watched by something so vast, so big, bigger than the sun. Like it was the sun itself, like an eye in space. But I couldn't see it. Before I'd wake up from the nightmare, that feeling becomes so overwhelming that I could scream out of pure horror. I could almost see that eye, see its exact form, its horrifying details. I end up waking up Henry with this disturbing scream, like I'm groaning and screaming at the same time. I wake up horrified, but the horror quickly subsides when I realize I'm back here, when I'm awake again. Oh, it makes me scared sometimes to fall back asleep. Well, I've ended up taking anti-anxiety medication and sleeping aids to help me calm down enough to fall asleep. What time does this happen exactly? It happens at 4 a.m. That's when I wake up.
Well, I'm sorry you've been going through that. What about you, Mr. Malcolm? Luckily, I haven't had it as bad as her. When it comes to sleep, that is. But I do feel that same feeling of being watched whenever I'm outside any building, especially the house. It's not intense, it's kind of subtle. It makes my walks that I go on feel a bit eerie, especially at night.
There's not much sound that I can hear except for what seems like a ringing sound the whole time. Did you check the tape?
Oh, I checked it multiple times. Nothing's wrong, well, not that I can tell.
Well, if it's okay, I'd like to have a copy of this tape so I can share it with an ophthalmologist I know of. And I'd like to show Reverend Matthew the tape as well, to get his opinion.
All right, as long as it helps.
I can't promise anything, but it's better than doing nothing. We'll conduct another interview with the supposed entity in about a week. Does December 11th work for you two? Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll let you both know if I find anything as soon as I can.
The recording ends there.
Okay, now I was creeped out. Why were my eyes the way my mother described? How could they be like that? What made me feel quite uneasy as well was that my mother had nightmares of being watched by some type of freaky eye, and my father felt like he was being watched too, but in the real world, watched by something he couldn't see. Well, I wasn't planning on sleeping that night anyways, so I decided to put the next CD in. It was labeled number 3. Second interview with the possessing entity. The recording begins. This is the second interview with the entity possessing Jacob. His mother and father are joining us tonight at 8 p.m. on December 11th. Now we can begin. I see you came earlier than expected. I thought Jacob needed to do his little ritual to have you come through. I can take over whenever I need to. That ritual, a form of meditation, is only needed when it's needed. But usually when a spirit comes through, it takes time. It takes a process. That process is limited only to the spirits you know of. It's not limited to entities such as myself. Are you, saying there are others like you? There are many others. There are many without number. Are they explorers like you? Some are, others are not. We have different yet similar purposes. How? Well, say one's purpose is a creator. Its ultimate purpose is similar to one that's purpose is a destroyer. Do you have genders? We're not bound by such a thing. Do you procreate? There's no need of reproducing. When did your species come into existence?
We know not, and we care not to know when. All we know of our existence is that we simply came into existence where time is non-existent. But every species, even demons and angels us humans believe and know of, have a beginning created by God. We have no beginning. We have no end. The spirits you label as demons and angels have a beginning and can have an end. We are eternal. You're telling me demons and angels can die? They're immortal. Immortal in a sense to you. Mortal in the infinite scope of everything. They are the peak of fourth-dimensional entities and lower fifth entities. We are eighth-dimensional beings, bound not by time or space. So, if you're eight-dimensional beings, you surely know the past, present, and future of this dimension. That is correct. Then why even bother possessing Jacob, talking to us, doing what you do that affects his parents and sister? My purpose is unimaginable to you. All you can comprehend is an extremely thin simplification of what I do. And I let you comprehend such a thing because I allow it. You're an explorer, you say. Do you tell others of what you do? I report to those who have different purposes to serve our ultimate objective. Can you describe at all to us what those others' purposes are? What is the ultimate objective of your species? Those whose purposes names you can comprehend are creators and destroyers. The others have no labels that are known to your species. Well, the nightmares Jacob's mother has. Is that from you? It is. I watch her in her dreams as I watch her partner in your kind's waking reality. Is what Mrs. Malcon sees at the end of her nightmares, is that you? It is a vague, comprehensible glimpse of a part of me. Do you have a form that you can describe to us? Not one that you can fathom. The I, the mother of the child sees, is what I allow her mind to grasp without shattering her mind into oblivion. But why? Why do you watch her? Why do you watch Mr. Malcolm? It is part of what you call predetermined exploration. It is because I need to do so. What do you explore? Memories, emotions, aspirations, and destinations. You're telling me you know what will happen to them. Every detail. This conversation is done. We will speak again. And my 11-year-old self suddenly gasps as if waking from a nightmare, just like before. Jacob, are you back with us? Doctor, oh my God, Doctor, I don't want to go back. I'm breathing heavily, and I sound horrified. What do you mean? What happened, Jacob? They did things to me. They did terrible things. I start dry heaving and end up vomiting. Oh, sweetie. I can hear her get up from where she's sitting and walks up to me to comfort me. Honey, get a towel and a bowl. And I hear what I'm assuming is my dad getting up and leaving the room. What kind of things? Oh, Doctor, leave him be, at least for now, please. Okay, all right. But I'd like to ask him about it later after he gets some rest. He sighs then. Damn. Okay, I'll call you tomorrow and see if he's ready to talk, okay? Okay, Doctor. The recording ends there. My blood was cold when that CD finished. If I had alcohol on me, I would have downed a few shots of vodka just to ease the strong dread that was flowing inside me. But I hadn't touched liquor for almost 2 years, and I actually felt afraid to even go outside to get some. So I stayed in my chair and took that third CD out and put in the fourth one, which was labeled Number 4, Final Interview with the Possessing Entity. The recording begins. 2 minutes of nothing but silence passes until Dr. Ramirez nervously clears his throat. Why did you do it? The entity now speaks in a new voice, yet there's another voice layered on top of the one it used before. This new voice has that similar underwater quality, like the other, but it's inhumanly deep, guttural, cold yet discernible. It was their time to see my eyes in this reality. You drove them insane. Dr. Ramirez sounds both angry and scared. That is their natural reaction to seeing my eyes less filtered in this reality. They asked me to reveal myself before them, and who they call Reverend Matthew. But why is he still able to speak? Because I allow it. It was destined. He must be capable enough to tell Jacob's older self about me. The clearer picture. Why his older self? Why not have him tell Jacob now? His mind is not strong enough to comprehend such things at this time. When he reaches the age of 33, he will then be ready to know what he's destined to know. Why not have me tell him? You were not destined to. Your purpose was to converse with me and record it, and you have fulfilled that. Silence passes for 3 minutes until I can hear Dr. Ramirez speak again. We had no choice, didn't we? I can hear the anger absent from Dr. Ramirez, with fearful despair replacing it. No, you did not. You never had the free will you deluded yourself to have. Free will is non-existent in all things, your species especially. Your trivial ability to observe the universe, what you call self-awareness, has caused you to believe the lie that you are free. What about you and your kind? I'm guessing you have a choice unlike us. We have free will and no free will. Choice for us is an incomprehensible paradox that's not translatable and communicable to your species in a way that would not tear your minds into nothingness. At least tell me or show me at least a glimpse of what your plan is. Tell me, please. You are not destined to. Reverend Matthew was destined. If you ask him, his ability to speak will be silenced. God, you're an abomination. Call me what you wish, but it will change nothing. Our conversing with each other is finished. And the recording ends immediately after those final words. I couldn't believe what I'd just heard. Well, I've known Dr. Ramirez for years as my psychologist, until he went missing 3 years ago. And now he sent me this package with these CDs and the letter. Did the entity really control what he was supposed to do? My parents never mentioned any of this to me after they were released from the psychiatric hospital back in 2015. Before they released, I wasn't even able to visit them. I guess it makes sense that something traumatic caused them to take that long to mentally recover. I was going to ask Reverend Matthew about it, but that temptation was silenced after I listened to the final CD. I took out the 4th CD and put in the 5th one. Then I pressed play with the dread now near overwhelming. The final CD, number 5. Reverend Matthew's remarks began. Recording begins. Reverend Matthew's raspy old voice speaks to the recorder. I've witnessed things no human should witness. I've experienced things that petrify the mind and soul. Things that made me question my own faith. All faith, in fact. He takes a deep sigh and continues. Midnight on 29th of December, 3 nights ago. After getting permission from the church, Marissa and Henry, Malcolm and I demanded the entity possessing Jacob to reveal itself. All 3 of us were angry and tired of the constant fear and horror that it imposed on us, along with Cassie, who was who was thankfully not present during the interviews Dr. Ramirez conducted with the entity. She, well, unbeknownst to us all before she told me herself, was having similar nightmares as her mother. Understandably, she didn't wish to stress her parents and Jacob even more than they were. Luckily, she was at a friend's house on midnight of the 29th. I guess it was for the best, especially with what happened. I had everything with me. The Holy Bible, my cross, holy water, and even the Quran and the Tanakh. I read every verse that demanded the entity to reveal itself and its name. Well, I regret ever doing so. Oh, I'm so sorry, Henry and Marissa. I'm sorry for what happened. Even though I know now that it was all predetermined, I still feel guilt. After I demanded the entity to reveal itself, a low-pitched ringing filled the living room where this took place. The lights burned out and a thick atmosphere of dread filled the air with a strange coldness I've never felt before. Jacob's eyes glowed in the darkness of the room. That's all we could see. And then that seemingly endless darkness we were trapped in was filled with countless familiar and unknown galaxies of this universe. The unknown galaxies gave off a powerful, ominous aura, and moved with slow, demented motions. The eyes that belonged to Jacob glowed from the entity's presence, and gradually transformed into the eyes that the memory of makes my blood go cold and terror consume my soul as it does now. Those eyes. Oh, those eyes. Oh God, no sane God would ever allow such things to exist. The pupils were that of a familiar octagon shape, yet they took form in multiple shapes so swiftly that it hurts my head trying to remember it. Shapes that I recognized, and they were non-Euclidean. The irises of those soul-piercing, abominable eyes remained that purple color, but appeared to be made up of thick depths of layered galaxies and nebula that let out horrific screams of billions of souls contorted and reverberating. What I saw next, what it showed me, is beyond words. The least I can tell you, Jacob, is that it was traumatic enough to put me on multiple medications and therapy sessions every week to keep me from falling into a bottomless abyss of maddening terror that I had never returned from. So, what I will say is this. That entity is waiting for you, Jacob. It's waiting for the destined time of when your future actions in this life will bring forth. Something nightmarish beyond all our imaginings will happen. There's nothing anyone or anything can do to stop it. That explorer will show you more than it's shown me in the near future. And when it does, all those who exist and ever existed, both living and dead, angels and demons, will inevitably be swallowed into the ultimate nightmare that has no end. I was predestined to record this and tell you all these things, Jacob. I had no choice, just like how Dr. Ramirez had no choice to not destroy the recordings, and how he had to wait to send you the package you'll receive on the night of the 28th of November, 2021. God help... No, the God I believed in doesn't exist. Not that kind. Whatever God exists is something I don't even wish to think of for a second. May heaven have mercy on you, on all of us. Fuck, what am I even saying? Oh, damn it, I can't take this. I'm sorry, Jacob. I'm sorry. And there, the final recording ends. After the final CD was done, I slowly took out my earbuds and let them fall to the floor. All I could do was sit back on my chair and let everything soak in. The dread I felt had now mutated into something unfamiliar and vile, which had swallowed my entire mind and body. I still feel it now. For 3 hours I've been getting flashes of this petrifying eye flashing through my mind. These images and scenes are so vividly nightmarish that they make me want to dry heave. I wish I could freaking dry heave or vomit to get some relief, but I can't. I don't even have the urge to call Reverend Matthew or even try to find out a way to contact Dr. Ramirez. Well, if I'm able to, I'm going to visit my parents and tell them I love them and spend some time with them. Well, I won't mention anything. Not one bit of what I've just learned and heard. They don't need to relive those living nightmares. They don't need to remember. And as for myself, I'm terrified of what's going to happen and of what's even happening right now. There's this new awareness that shouldn't be experienced. Oh, may my sanity be spared. I don't know if I'll ever be able to be normal. I don't know how long my mind can take this before it becomes something that I don't want to imagine. My mind's becoming a door, a window to something awful, and the veil is becoming thinner with each passing minute. I'm scared. So fucking scared. What the fuck is happening? What the fuck is going on? What the hell is happening? Mommy, Daddy, I don't remember. Scared. Fuck. I am what many would perceive as the luckiest man on earth. Well, maybe saying something such as this is a tad hyperbolic, but, well, I'm no jackpot winner, but I do have my fair share of blessings. So let's contextualize just how fortunate I've been over the years, shall we? I say we start at the beginning. Like the very beginning. Here we're going back a long way for this. When it comes to my mother, it's very easy to say that she had no redeeming qualities in any way, shape, or form. While carrying me in the womb, her top priority was not me, but rather drinking and consuming a rather large quantity of drugs. She lived a nomadic lifestyle which could be explained by her constant financial struggles. I suppose chasing one's desires and allowing temptation to be that which governs life is more appealing to some than creating a safe environment for a future family. What I'm getting at here is that I survived despite the many, many chances that I wouldn't. When I ask myself how favoured I've been throughout my life, my birth is, of course, the first thing that comes to mind. Well, things don't stop there, however, because of several complications that would present themselves in the future. For one, I had severe asthma throughout my childhood. I frequently reminisce of the plentiful times where I had to carry a machine with me to breathe. I often had to miss many days of school due to my excessively weak immune system. I was very prone to disease, and when I became sick, it would take me far longer than average to recover. Well, life progressed, as did I. Although my health had increased, I can't say the same for my intelligence. Yeah, that's a knock on myself, but I can't call it unjustified, considering the number of times I risked my life without even recognizing it. From poking a fork into an electric socket to tying a fishing line around my wrists tightly, I certainly wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed. Well, I would assume that by now the point has been made about my blessings. It's a strange thing to look back on, you know. The memories I have of my thoughts and feelings of those times, they all juxtapose my current situation. Having the cold metal barrel of a gun against my temple sends shivers down my spine. I feel so overwhelmed by the sentimentality and stress I feel coursing through my veins. The past and present collide together, sparking a fire within my head. My fingers claw through my tangled hair and my lip quivers nearly as fast as my intensely beating heart throbbing in my chest. I need to swallow the lump in my throat and collect myself. I need to breathe deeply. I need to wipe the tears from my eyes and the sweat from my brow. Look, all this thinking isn't for nothing. It's not like I'm invulnerable. I've been cut and bruised and bombarded by the ones I love. I'm no stranger to feeling vulnerable and damaged. The only question which resides within my mind now is this. Why me? It is my hope that this note will provide you, and perhaps myself, with the answer to the madness which has engulfed my life. The memory of the night it happened is hard to remember for me. I recall stumbling out of the pub as the moonlight illuminated the parking lot. I shouldn't have started the damn car. Even I could smell my horrendously intoxicated breath as I shut the door behind me. I sloppily adjusted the window mirror, its smooth, gleaming surface giving me a glimpse of myself. The dark rings around my eyes and the glossy scarlet colouring of my sclera were very telling of my state at that time. Yet, with the turn of a key, my ignition roared, and off I drove into the night. I couldn't tell you how long I rode along the rural road that evening. The glimmering stars in the sky turned to a blur as my vision and my hearing turned fuzzy. The landscape was desolate, aside from the trees which swiftly passed me by. Strange, isn't it? How rapidly a situation can completely devolve into something horrid. 1 second I was travelling alone in a secluded area, and a blaring horn and a brilliant light flooded my ears, and then the next, after that, nothing. I don't remember the impact, only the darkness which quickly enveloped me. Upon regaining consciousness, the first thing I noticed was the crimson blood that smeared my steering wheel. My hands clenched the door handle tightly, and with all my might I pushed the door open and crawled out of the vehicle. My palms pressed against my head and my knees were shuddering. I ogled the scene displayed before my eyes. Compared to the damage done to the other car and its driver, my suffering was nothing at all. The small van that I collided with was bent inwards in the front, its windshield completely shattered. I stumbled my way over to the passenger side and peered inside the window. Within the car sat a young woman, her head leaned back in her seat. Her mouth sat slightly open, and her wide-open eyes were glossy and rolled back, devoid of life. Glass shards pierced her body, soaking her clothes in the blood that leaked from her wounds. Her nose had been smashed and pushed back into her skull. Chunks of flesh that had once been on her face now remained on the leather steering wheel. A sickly yellow vomit erupted from my throat and splashed onto the road. My stomach would empty itself for several minutes, each heave and lurch taking the oxygen from my lungs and bringing about a stream of hot tears. They dropped onto the pavement along with my insides, and this kept up until all that remained within my gut was air. My head pulsated from the pain that I felt, as if a mallet was being bashed into my cranium non-stop. Whether this was brought about by what was left of my hangover or the grotesque scene before me, I do not know. I reached into my pocket for my phone. I tried to turn it on, but it was dead, and I knew that the road that I was on was so dormant that it might take the rest of the day for help to arrive. Clenching my jaw tightly shut, I turned back to the vehicle before me, eyes darting around to avoid seeing the corpse once more. I could see a phone on the floor by the passenger side of the car. Walking to the other side of the car, I curled my sweat-drenched fingers into a fist and began to pound on the window. After a few strikes, I broke through the glass and was able to reach the phone. When the police arrived, the alcohol was pretty much out of my system. While the accident was my fault based on circumstantial evidence, the charges I faced were nowhere near close to how bad they should have been. I, of course, sent my best wishes to the girl's family, but it wasn't enough. No amount of retribution could ever mend the hearts of the people my actions had wounded. I didn't attend her funeral. In fact, I couldn't even bring myself to ask the family if I could have. How could I face those who surely despised me with every ounce of their being? Such a thing is implausible, to say the least. So, what did I do? I tried to let such memories fade into obscurity. A fruitless trial, of course, but my cowardice and inability to face what I'd done and who it had affected plagues me in every waking moment of every day. I should have done better. I wish I'd done better. And yet, I didn't. And it's too late to change that. As I write this, I look down at my right arm. The scars and bruises I received from breaking that window cover the surface of it. They exist as physical reminders of the deep emotional cuts that still haven't healed. The gun still sits beside me on the desk, and I can't help my straying eyes wandering over to it. The thought of using it on myself is tempting, but I shouldn't. Not yet, anyway. You see, I don't wish to end my life because of the accident, or any specific actions I've done at all, for that matter. There's something else. Something more compels me to try and take my life. So please, allow me to further explain my predicament. Fast forward a few years. I came home from work to find my front door unlocked. I gripped the doorknob and swallowed the saliva which coated my throat. I'd thought that maybe I'd simply forgotten to lock the house up before I'd left earlier. After conjuring up comforting explanations in my head, I gently pushed the door ajar and placed one foot inside my home. As soon as I entered the living room, my jaw practically dropped to the floor. Everything was in disarray, from paper spread across the floor to chairs moved and knocked over. I took a few steps forward, slowly treading further into the room. I stopped dead in my tracks, holding my breath. One of the footsteps that landed on the polished oak floor didn't line up with my own. Another step was taken. It wasn't mine. When the blade entered my back, it shredded through my tissue and went down to the bone. My jaw catapulted open, and a shriek akin to that of a banshee escaped my mouth. I collapsed to the floor, hitting my head against the table leg. I looked up at my assailant, and he stared into my eyes. In front of me was the visage of a man with pure hatred stitched into his expression. His pupils had dilated beyond what I thought was humanly possible. He charged me and knelt on my stomach, burying the blade deep within my chest with one swift motion. My head threw back and I screamed bloody murder. Desperately reached my hand up and clawed at the man's face, and in retaliation he repeatedly slammed my body against the floor. At that moment I thought it was over, that my life would come to a violent end. I could no longer feel the pain then as I had prior. I felt numb, and all I could do was look into those maddening eyes. I would die a life of mediocrity and regret, where the remembrance of my time on this earth would be deliberately forgotten as the steady marching of time continued. My eyes closed as the depressing thought of my end consumed me. Suddenly I heard a sickening crack. The fingers that had once held such a strong grip on me faltered, and soon I'd been released. Reality rushed back to me, and I pushed myself away from the man who was now sprawled across the floor, a grimace stitched into his face. A large pot had fallen from the top shelf of my cabinet and onto his head, causing him to bleed profusely from his scalp. His knees shook as he tried to find his balance. The agony I'd felt resurged, and I held my tongue firmly to stifle my cries. Now back on his feet, the man methodically made his way towards me, swaying from side to side and extending his arms in my direction. I was confronted by a myriad of possibilities at that moment, as a surge of questions came to me all at once. What would he do to me? How could I stop him? Do I have a chance of survival? A disgusting sloshing sound produced by the man walking through the pool of blood that sat where I once was caught my attention. He instantly accelerated towards me, but in his quick burst of speed he slid on the slippery surface and missed his target. His body fell into the wall and the force repelled him back, crashing to the ground. A fresh puddle of gore emerged where he fell. His neck had landed on the spot where the knife lay, and the serrated edge had gashed his throat. I made my way towards him, took off my shirt, attempting to create some sort of bandage for him. I knew he had tried to kill me, but despite that, and my serious injuries, I tried my best to save the man's life. I didn't want to deal with yet another cold carcass in my sight. I looked into his eyes once more, and the anger that I'd previously seen in them had been replaced with sadness. His blood was oozing through my shirt and trickling onto my hands, and the color was draining from his face. With every breath he took, his chest rose less, until the movement was hardly noticeable at all. He raised his hand to my collar and softly gripped it, expending almost all his energy in the process. His lips parted, and he spoke to me, his voice faint and dry. "Why couldn't you have just stayed off the road, asshole?" His voice trailed off and his eyes closed. I couldn't react to what he'd said, nor could I move a single muscle. The lifeless body in my living room fell from my arms as I stared into the void, my mouth agape. Memories of that fateful night flooded back to me once more, and my entire body shook with such a ferocity that I had not imagined possible. My nose felt clogged, my lungs congested, a gasp for oxygen that my body had begun to deprive me of. I felt as light as a feather, yet the weight in my chest carried the burden of an anvil. As sudden as my descent into panic had begun, it ended. Pressure faded away and I collapsed to the floor, bloody and bruised. With all the might I could foster, I grappled for my telephone and called for help. Many hours and stitches later, my doctor entered the room where I was resting. He approached me, a smile plastered on his face. "You're a very lucky man, you know. The stab wounds you sustained were bad, but nothing fatal. If the blade had entered your body only a few inches further in either direction, you wouldn't be here today. It's very fortunate that you're alive." "Yeah, just my luck," I responded. I didn't care to say anything else, for the man's final words were all I could think of. Looking back on these moments, I lifted my shirt and grazed my fingers along the scar along my back. The texture is different from the rest of my body. Another injury, another reminder of why I'm making this note. Even still, I need to face these thoughts and finish this writing. It's odd how different our perspectives will be upon reading this text in the future. I think, after many months of retrospect and research, that what you may find as a suicide note is, to me, a text which served to record my life so that I may look back on it, if my theory about my good fortune is to be true. My life both draws near to its end, and yet it will only continue from here. I suspect this is not the first time such a thing has occurred. It is, however, the first time I shall document it. Now that sounds contradictory, I know, but something tells me that I might not be too far off the mark. I can feel the pain swelling within me, and not just in the form of emotional torment. I feel physically ill. My ribs are visible through my rough, leathery skin, and my arms have grown weary just from this minute amount of writing. I sleep 12 hours a day on average, and that doesn't include the various naps I take throughout the afternoon. I need to finish this quickly, so I think it's time I write candidly to you about my latest plight, and the reason why I ultimately believe I need to go through with my suicide. Well, I've been diagnosed with terminal cancer. When the news was revealed to me, I didn't know how to feel. I thought I could make it through this. Well, I've always made it, haven't I? No matter the odds, luck was always in my favor. This offered me little comfort once the pain began to gradually increase. My will to eat, to drink, and to work was greatly diminished. I took off from work, of course, because what's the point? Most people would use this opportunity to spend as much time with their loved ones as possible. They would make a bucket list of everything they'd ever wanted to do and fulfill those goals. Well, that was my impression of what one did when they knew they had limited time on this earth, anyway. I suppose my expectations were wrong. I don't currently do any of those things because all I can do is sleep. I rest and eat a small portion every day and spend the rest of my time watching television. I don't waste away and expect pity out of it. I don't need any condolences because, although my life has had plenty of pain that I brought onto myself, dying with regrets is not what I am afraid of. I sit in my chair, my fingers spread across my keyboard. I cup my hands and breathe into them, and then move them to my nose and take in the stench of my stale breath. I haven't brushed my teeth in weeks. My shower has remained dormant for just as long. Motivation is lacking. Morale is low. And yet I type and type, detailing my experiences for all to see. My eyes dart across the room to the clock. It's later than I usually stay up, but this is important. What can I say? I have a message that needs delivering. I don't think my plight is solely my own. My luck is beyond that which any man, woman, or child could ever experience in this world, but I don't think that's a coincidence at all. My mind is beginning to race again. All the people I initially met. Everyone I've spoken to and everyone that I've seen. I am dead to all of them, and in a way they are dead to me. How can I wrap my head around all of this? It's just my luck to have survived through situations where I should have died, right? I should have been a cold corpse 6 feet under by now, and yet here I am. The most blessed man on earth. My body aches, as does my heart. I hold my withered hand up to my head and rest my elbow on the flat surface that I sit before. The lights have faded, and all that illuminates me now is the computer screen. What's the point of living anymore? Am I here to rot and forever be haunted by my past? There's no rhyme or reason at all. No purpose for all these happenings. It's as if the world is doing what it can to keep me alive. 3 months. That's how long it's been since I was supposed to die. I've been told it can happen any day now, yet somehow I doubt that. Such a thing would be a miracle at this point. I can see my gun reflected on my computer screen. It's getting harder to resist thinking about it. Those who read this might feel that these are the final words of someone with more than a few screws loose, but I feel like I have some sort of obligation to warn you that I don't think I'm alone in this experience. There's nothing extraordinary about me. Perhaps this is something that everyone will experience, the ability to survive against impossible odds. No human could go through the things I've been through and live to tell about it. I don't think our minds can comprehend everything that we experience. Think about how many times you've had a near-death experience. Is it reasonable to presume that we've all just been so fortunate as to endure beyond what anyone could? Or is there something more? As I've discovered, some refer to these phenomena as the quantum immortality thought experiment. The notion that since our brain cannot comprehend what comes after death, our mind is instead transferred into another universe where our deaths simply never occurred. Yeah, I know it's only a thought experiment, but could this be what's happening with me? Everything that has happened can't just be luck, can it? Is the universe keeping me alive and hiding the truth from me? Is it doing the same for all of us? I clench the weapon within my hand once more. My finger is lightly placed on the trigger. I think I'm almost ready now. For all my speculation as to how and why, in truth I don't know that my suspicions are correct. I need to test this theory to reveal what's truly going on. This is perhaps the end of the line for us, dear reader. For me, it may not be. Well, if I'm correct, then the same can be said of you. God, I wish I could dispel my fortune. What is there to live for except the melancholic prospect of suffering in one's pity and pain when there are no consequences for one's actions? No ultimate ending, no finale to the story of our lives. It's now time for me to part with you. Remember the different perspectives we shall have regarding this documentation. I truly don't know if I'm right about this. Maybe I'm completely wrong, and this is the end for me. Maybe I really was just the most fortunate man in the world. Whatever the case, this is something I need to do, if for no other purpose than to discover the truth about my life and our reality. Well then, let's test my luck one last time.
Yes, my dear friends, I know that last night in my short, I promised you a huge 100-minute story this evening. Well, my apologies, but stuff happened in life today. To cut a long story short, lots of things were going on, and there was just no way it was going to happen. Not to completion, anyway. But that is coming tomorrow night. Awesome story. Surprised it's not been read before. It has, but not only once, I think. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think you're going to like it too. A lot of you are already familiar with the title, so hope this comes as something of a treat. Well, my dear friends, what day is it? I lose count these days, I really do. Yes, it's still the weekend, but that is enough for one evening. I will definitely be back again tomorrow night, though. So until then, very, very sweet dreams. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this story today. It really means a lot to me and to the author of the story, of course. Well, if you want to know more about me, I'm pretty much everywhere on social media. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can download my music on SoundCloud. I've got a Patreon if you feel like. Throw me $1 or $2. Very much appreciated. And of course, on Reddit, I have a place where you can leave stories if you want me to read one that you've written. Well, hoping to see you all again very soon. Till then, sweet dreams. Bye-bye.